Hi there, Joel from Jones's, and today we're going to talk about the specific things you have to do to your Cummins as well as your Suburban in order to get it ready for the transplant. The first thing I want to discuss is the variations in the power steering setups, and specifically on our Suburban conversion we have hydro boost brakes. So the power brake booster actually runs off of the hydraulics from the power steering. So this unit right here is what came originally on our donor vehicle, our 92 Dodge truck. So it actually has a vacuum pump and power steering unit in series, directly driven off of the back of that timing cover on the Cummins. This pump right here is what came originally on our 6.5 liter diesel, and it has a belt driven power steering pump with two return lines, a return line here and a return line here, specifically for the power steering pump as well as the hydro boost brakes. So because we have hydro boost, we don't need this vacuum pump, so we decided to rob the direct mount power steering bracket off of let's say a bread van type application in a 4BT. So it has the gear drive with the adapter and the pump directly mounted off of the gear drive. So the way to adapt all of this in order to make it work correctly in our Suburban is we're going to take the power steering pump off of the 6.5 liter diesel and adapt it over with the gear as well as the mounting plate for the direct mount. That way we'll have the return lines direct mounted off of there and we won't have to do anything with a belt. On top of that, we won't be wasting the vacuum pump, and this item we could sell or save for another project that has a vacuum booster.
So if you guys are going to try this at home, you're going to definitely want to use a power steering puller. Use it right there just with the impact. And here I'm just removing the actual power steering pump from the existing 6.5 liter bracket. And then pulling the gear off of the actual Cummins power steering is a little tricky. It requires a press and then a bearing splitter. You can see that right there. Takes a little bit of force to get it to come out because that's a pretty heavy press fit gear. And it pops right off, and then you can separate that pump. After you get all the pump separated, it's just a simple Allen bolt to remove the aluminum bracket away from the existing pump. So we just knock those off with the impact there, and then clean it all up and assemble the bolts with blue Loctite. Put the blue Loctite on, and then you also want to use some RTV sealer around the bolts to make sure that you don't get any oil migration up around those actual bolt heads. In addition to that, around the actual power steering pump shaft is a cork gasket. So here we're going to use our power steering pulley installer tool. Again, do not try to do this if you don't have that tool. We kind of just threads on there, and then that's a little bearing, and you've got your nut screws on there. And I just start it by hand with a couple of wrenches to get the gear going. And after you get the gear kind of started on there nicely, I like to secure the pump itself in the vise, and it just makes it a little easier to hold when you're doing it. And make sure you measure how far the gear actually went on. And then lastly, you just bolt it back up where the existing power steering pump vacuum unit went.
So here we are under the Suburban. I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to see what kind of modifications we have to do. So this transmission tunnel right here, it has this big lip on it right there, you can see. And I've gone ahead and I've made a relief cut right there in each corner, as well as down here for where the exhaust is going to go. And we're going to need to fold this lip all the way back so that it's flush. That way there's more clearance around that bell housing. So we'll go ahead and massage that back. But the other thing that we did while we were under here, so in the previous video, this is the engine frame pad. These have been trimmed right along here. Cut that off, and the hole located for the Gen 1 style mount. And then also you can notice the recessed countersunk bolts that are in the top of the differential. So we had to modify that as well. And then that's about it. There's a couple of braces that had to be removed. You can see the remnants of one of them right here and the other one right there, and they went up and tied into there. You can see that cut right there, as well as the cut right there. So that's it. So there's a good shot of the transmission tunnel, and then I'll go ahead and massage that back, and we'll be good to go. Now, as far as the transmission cross member, it will need to be moved back approximately 3 inches, and the holes drilled. That's pretty straightforward. And then the torsion bar mount itself, the transfer case will be pretty much right up against that, which makes for difficult removal. Some people have trimmed that down a little bit. There's quite a bit of material here, and so you can take this and cut this and box it back in. So we're going to leave it intact for now to show everybody how that's done. But it's pretty tight fit there on that transfer case. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get that transmission tunnel massaged, get it peeled back so that we have a little bit more room, and then we'll go ahead and test fit. Now, we have a manual. This is linkage for the transfer case. We have a manual transfer case. So this rod, because everything is getting slid back, this rod will need to be extended approximately 3 inches, and then everything will work just as it was stock. Now, if you have an automatic transfer case or a push button transfer case, you won't have to worry about that. So get ready to swap the engine in. So here's what it looks like with that lip folded back. Just gotta kind of massage it back so that it's not sticking down. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually assemble the transmission and push the transmission and transfer case into the hole right here and slide it all the way back, and then drop the engine in from the top. Here's the moment of truth. We have everything set up on the 12 valve. We've swapped over our oil pressure sending unit as well as our water temperature sending unit, so our gauges on our Suburban will work. We have our adapter plate and flex plate installed, everything with blue Loctite and torqued. And then we've also test fit the starter on this side. Now, one thing to note is that you have to, if you're going to run this with the 4L80, you have to clearance the block. And we ended up actually cutting this section, removing that so that there is enough room for the starter. And you want to make sure that you mock that up ahead of time, because it would be very difficult to trim that off after it's in the vehicle with the adapter plate on it. So we've got our conversion engine mounts set up, and we've left all of the accessory drives off of the front with the exception of that power steering. That's very difficult to install once it's in the vehicle. Now, the vehicle itself, we have the transmission with the torque converter and the transfer case all stabbed into place and shoved as far back as we can possibly get it. Right now we just have it kind of resting on a strap right there. And then we also have our Gen 1 mounts kind of setting in place on our engine mount plates. So next thing is we're going to loosen the pivots on the hood, tip the hood back, and set the engine down in place.